Before you go, Kshama, this is a different topic, but it's a topic that's very near and dear to your heart because it's near and dear to your home. This was in Seattle, so I have to ask you about this. I know your office put out a statement on this that you sent me a link to, but just a horrible story here from Seattle. Body cam captures Seattle police officer laughing in wake of fatal collision. This is from KUOW.org, an NPR affiliated network. Seattle's Office of Police Accountability is investigating a body cam video that features a Seattle police officers guild leader laughing and joking in the wake of a fatal officer involved collision. On January 23rd, 2023, a patrol car traveling more than 70 miles an hour en route to a 911 call struck 23-year-old Janavi Kandula, I'm sorry if I'm getting that name wrong, on Dexter Avenue North. Kandula, was taken to Harborview Medical Center where she died. Less than a day later, body cam video captured part of a phone call reportedly between Detective Daniel Orderer and Officer Mike Solon. Orderer is vice president of SPOG, Seattle's police union, and Solon is president. And then later in the article, it writes, Orderer says that he didn't believe the officer's car was out of control and that a trained driver could handle the high speed. According to the phone call audio, actually, he said he was going 50. But then this is the really sickening part. And there is video of this if you guys want to seek it out. I'm not going to play it on here because it's too awful. But he is then heard laughing after stating she is dead. He then states through more laughter, yeah, just write a check, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value. Now, I believe she was 23, but that's obviously besides the point. Talk about the problems of policing and the problems of capitalism really merging in this just absolutely vile story. Your office put out a statement on this. I know you sent me a link. I can bring that up if you'd like, but in the meantime, if you want to give your reaction to that.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, this is the problems that people experience, the masses of American population experience with the police are very much related to capitalism itself, because the police are one of the most important institutions of the capitalist state that keep order. They're not there for protecting, as they say. It's there to maintain order in the interests of the ruling class. And so it's not surprising that when you see these kinds of problems that are not isolated anyway. So as we said in the statement from my office, this incident, this is really, as you said, vile incident where a police officer, a higher ranking police officer who's the vice president of the Seattle Police Officers Guild, cackles in response to the death of a young woman. Her name is Janavi Kandula. I totally understand it's a hard name to say. Who was an Indian exchange student. Really deeply tragic that this happened in the first place. But then saying that her life had limited value. This is not an isolated incident in any way. So this callous disregard for human life is obviously, it's particularly chilling because he has a publicly funded gun with the authority to use legal force, and this shows you that this is at the behest of the capitalist state. And in Seattle's case and New York's case is at the behest of the democratic establishment, which is the lieutenant for the capitalist state in these cities, these liberal cities. But it's hardly I mean, one of the reasons this has created such furor is because this is far from the only incident. Obviously, I need hardly say we're speaking in the wake of the George Floyd protest, so the vast majority of people know what it's like. But I should mention that this video came to light only because this guy Orderer forgot to turn off his body-worn camera, and a journalist used a legal public records request to get the footage. So this is like, it's not a normal thing that we would get to see it, but it gives you a glimpse of what must be happening on a daily basis. For example, another such investigation where journalists had to create public disclosure request records, they found that the SPD office, the Seattle police officers, kept a mock tombstone for a black man killed by the police in a precinct break room. So it's just one after one. When you hear the truth, it's just stomach turning. And so the very minimum that my office is calling for, of course, is the firing of Orderer himself and Mike Solon, who is the president, as you said, of the Police Officers Guild. But also, far more than that, in reality, Seattle's public police accountability system is completely broken in the sense that it was never meant to work. It's like cops watching over cops. That's never going to work. So my office has been calling for an elected community oversight board with full powers over the police, including hiring and firing and policies and procedures. And I think two, maybe three facts need to be mentioned here. Salient facts need to be mentioned here. Otherwise, it's not a complete political analysis that I would be offering. One is that the Police Officers Guild, it technically, in a technical sense, is a union, but uh, no labor movement can ever succeed in fighting for and winning gains for workers if we are not united for the working class, by and for the working class. In other words, it's not an idle refrain in the labor movement when we say an injury to one is an injury to all. So any guild or any organization that has such dehumanizing perspectives towards people who face mental health, people who are homeless, uh, people of color, riddled with misogyny, that has no place inside the labor movement. And so I'm really proud to share, many of your viewers might not know that in during the George Floyd protests, actually the rank and file of the labor movement here in Seattle, the local AFL-CIO, the rank and file pushed the leadership to take action on this, and the Seattle Police Officers Guild was expelled from the local AFL-CIO. This is a very important occurrence.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention is that the this is not, you can't, you've seen in response to this, because there's been such uproar and it's all gone viral. Every newspaper in India, for example, my home country, is reporting on this incident. So the Democrats locally are being forced to speak up about this, and so they're all there's all this press release after press release of outrage, like, oh, this should not, Pramila Jayapal, the Congress member from here,
Right.
that, oh, this should not be happening. She's the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and the Seattle uh, city council right now is more than half progressive, in name. But these are the same people who have again and again, it's under their oversight that the Seattle police have committed the atrocities that they have committed. In just concretely to mention, in 2018, the Democratic mayor, Jenny Durkin, of this city, and every Democrat on the city council, including all those, full-throatedly progressive Democrats, all these women of color, they voted for a really rotten spark contract, which rolled back many of the limited police accountability reforms that had recently been won from pressure from the first round of BLM movement. I was the only no vote on that. So all of this really shows that it's we have to first of all call out these crocodile tears from the Democrats, and also understand that ultimately this cannot be changed, this status quo cannot be changed unless there's real community oversight. And also, ultimately, we need to break from capitalism itself, which is why I'm a socialist. But one more thing I should mention, because again the story would be incomplete otherwise, is that uh, actually during the George Floyd protests, the demand for elected community oversight over the police had huge support. There were so many actually black pastors who told me their congregations don't support defund, but they would support elected community oversight. But what happened? We saw, and this, there has to be a real reckoning here as well, is that a lot of the self-appointed BLM leaders, in which I would unfortunately, I think, have to be correctly called misleaders, they refused to fight on even their own, the demands that they themselves had brought forward, and they pushed back against the idea of elected community oversight. They gave no support for it. And ultimately what happened, this is not just a story of Seattle, this has happened city after city. Many of these misleaders made their own deals, NGO funding and their own careers with the Democrats, and the movement got sold out. So that's why the gains of the movement have not been commensurate with the power on the streets. And so again, this is a cautionary tale that we need accountable leadership, and it cannot be based on what identity that leader has, but what positions that leader is actually willing to take. And also it's a reminder that it has to be movements for succeeding. They have to have rank and file democracy where the rank and file can call out the leaders.
Please clap.